been about a week since really, truly historic storms swept through the Western Cape. And as you know, they left roads damaged, businesses disrupted, many communities struggling to recover. Rainfall levels hitting 150, sometimes 200 millimeters in places, particularly in mountainous areas. The result was rivers bursting their banks and simply raging through a number of towns, including Worcester, Rawsonville and Robertson. Huge impact on infrastructure, on agriculture, on tourism businesses. Of course, on human life. We know at least 11 lives lost as a result of these storms. It's massive. And, driving into Franschhoek on Friday, one was aware of storm damage, of the cleaning of storm damage and of debris the whole way through to the village. But once I got to the village itself, everything had been spruced up and cleared away to make the town beautiful for the literary festival. And several times during the weekend, I had that experience of looking up and seeing the water that was still sort of pouring off the mountains and flowing into the channels and thinking, gosh, on the other side of those mountains, I would be seeing something very, very different, because in the valley of the Breede River, there is still utter devastation. So with great thanks to the guest who was meant to be joining us for travel today, who's agreed to postpone their interview, and I won't say more until we've confirmed a new date for them, but we really just thought it would be pertinent today to check in with the tourism industry, in particular in the Breede River Valley, to talk about how to support the businesses that have been devastated by the impact of these storms. We're first going to speak to somebody from Breede Valley Tourism, and then a little bit later on, we will hear from one of the farms which has been hardest hit in the Robertson area, the Loveren Family Vineyards. I don't know if you've seen some of the footage and the photographs that have been shared on social media. Incredible aerial photography by Jean Tresvan shared on Facebook, which really shows you just how significantly some of these properties were hit. So thank you to both of them for being willing to chat to us. And also, I want to say a couple of businesses that we reached out to and asked to participate today had to say to us, we literally can't. We are so busy dealing with the devastation and the immediate impact on not just forward bookings for tourists, but accommodation for our own staff and the likes. That's got to be our focus. And that really gives you some insight into the level of devastation. Let's start with Nelmari Lubbe, who is on the line to us, part of Breede Valley Tourism, and is going to give us a bit of an overview before we speak to an individual property to hear more about their experience. Nelmari, thank you so much for your time this afternoon, because I'm sure you too are being absolutely run off your feet trying to support all of your members who've been impacted. We appreciate you joining us today.
Afternoon, Pippa. Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. I can talk about the Breede River Valley, but of course it's not one sort of distinct entity, Nelmari. Within that valley, there are different towns and different tourism areas, and all of them will have experienced the floods slightly differently from the next place. Do you want to start by just talking through what has happened and what has been the most significant impact in some of your major destinations?
Yes, so just to start off, I was born and raised in Worcester,
Okay.
and this is honestly the worst storm I've ever experienced in the Breede Valley.
Wow.
There was literally just, you drive down the street and there's not one home or with a broken tree or uprooted tree, and it's all trees that you actually grew up with, lying on their sides, just with their roots exposed. But going further into the rural areas, it had a major impact on tourism, on our agriculture, especially our infrastructure. So accommodation establishment, they experienced like cancellations, guests struggled to reach us, and some of the guests had to stay a night extra or 2 nights extra to get back to Cape Town. So all over it was really devastating. Especially with the electricity outages.
Yeah.
Our water supply was cut off for a few days. But at the same time, what stood out during this whole difficult period we went through was the incredible community spirit and the resilience that was shown across the region. Like you said, we have the Breede Valley consists of 4 towns, so it's Rawsonville, Worcester, and then the Dorings and Touws River. So Worcester, Rawsonville, and the Dorings was hit the hardest, especially with the flooding. Its venues, it is the agriculture, our table grapes, everything was just, it was quite severe. But talking about the tourism side, I actually have some accommodation places on farms. They still don't know what losses they have, because they're still waiting for the water to reside.
Wow.
So they can actually reach their venues to see what's going on there. And then like a town like Toast River, yes, they did have some rainfall and wind, but they actually said they weren't hit that hard. And I mean, it's just on the other side of the Hex River Pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was quite. I think we are all still shocked.
I mean, that's extraordinary that the water still hasn't subsided from some of the properties. Nelmari, I hadn't realised that it was still that severe, because I've seen the aerial footage of the flooding when it has a very clear vision of how far over the banks the water spilled. But to think that some of those places are still underwater, that gives you an understanding of the extent of the damage. Obviously, water that has fallen deep in the mountains is still making its way into the river system. So I guess that would explain why it's not a case of, let the sun come out and the water go down, because of course still more water is pouring in from further up the river. But Nelmari, I mean, you talk about electricity supply, water supply being cut off. I've seen footage of bridges washed away and roads cut off. In terms of actual physical access to these properties, is anybody still cut off, or have you managed to at least find a way to reconnect every property back to civilization as such?
Well, at this stage, I think everyone has been reached. I think everyone has been rescued, and that was cut off. But we still have the challenges of roads that was washed away, especially on the farms, where most of our tourism establishments are situated. So they are now just tirelessly working around the clock, getting the roads fixed, because I mean, tourism needs to go on.
Yeah.
The economy needs to go on. So no, I think most of the people are, let's say, in a safe space, but still cut off from connectivity like Wi-Fi or internet. Just communicating or getting provisions to and from. People are making plans. I know this one guy, he actually does the Transagalas. He went in his boat and he went and took supplies to people. So mean, it's again just the community coming together. It's really great to see that.
Nelmari, what you've just said is so important to emphasise to our listeners who might be listening here in Cape Town, perhaps a little bit removed from all of this, but perhaps have forward bookings for a weekend away in a farm cottage in the mountains somewhere, and be wondering what will happen. Can they get there? Will the property be open? Is the cottage they were going to stay in even still standing? And maybe be feeling frustrated because they haven't heard anything. What you've just said, I think I want to repeat loud and clear. Some of these properties are still cut off without restoration of Wi-Fi and internet, so their ability to communicate with future travellers is limited. I've got a long weekend planned for 2 weeks' time, and I was astonished to get an email from them already, Nelmari, just a day or two ago, saying, it's okay, you will have seen that the access road you should have taken is not available anymore, but this is how you get to us, and your property is going to be fine that you're staying in. And I just thought, wow, that was really, really professional communication. But of course, they can do that because obviously they've got their email and internet back up and running. From what you've said, a number of properties aren't that lucky yet.
Yeah. So a lot of the properties are not at that stage yet. It's mostly more to the Doring side that I know of. I know like our Rawsonville guys and the Worcester guys are all up and running again. Or not up and running, but they do have connectivity. But I know there is challenges, especially with farms situated very deep into the mountains. Also, that's because the infrastructure just the water. Literally just the flood took it all away.
Okay. Well, if nothing else, I hope listeners take away from this the need to just be a little bit patient as they wait for further communication. Nelmari, before we wrap with you and hand over to hear a personal story from Van Loveren Estate, what is the message you would like to put out there to South Africans on the best way to support your community, and particularly these tourism businesses which face such devastating losses and rebuilding costs and everything that comes with it? What would your message be on the best way to be a help rather than a hindrance?
Yes, so one of the most important ways for the public to actually help is just by continuing to support the local tourism businesses, those who are still operational. People can still visit the region. Our roads are open. They can still book accommodation, even if it's not for now, just for a later period. Support restaurants, our wine farms, business still that is still in the recovery phase. They can also be supported through online purchases, buying local products and wines. I mean, every booking or visit and purchase really makes a difference during the recovery period. And many parts of the Breede Valley are operational again, and we are ready to welcome visitors.
That's absolutely remarkable given what you've been through. Nelmari Lubbe, thank you so much for the update, speaking to us there from Breede Valley Tourism to give us the sort of the broad overview. And please take to heart what she said about the need to keep your support pledged to this area, and also I think very important the message around patience while some of these properties get back on their feet. Let's bring in a personal story of one property, if I can call it that. Marili McElhinney is with us on the line, who is the marketing manager for Loveren Family Vineyards. And if you've seen the aerial footage of their part of the world, you will know what devastation has been wrought on their vineyards and facilities. And Marili, thank you so much for joining us to tell us a little bit more about it. I'm so sorry that the business is facing this challenge, but we appreciate your time.
Hello, Pippa. Thanks very much for the chance to be able to tell our story. Yeah, it certainly is an interesting time to be part of Van Loveren. We are no stranger to floods. We have had floods in 1981 and in 2024. We're also quite hit, but nothing quite as unprecedented as what happened on the 12th of May.
Tell us a little bit more about the extent of the damage and what you went through during the storm.
So I mean, as you had touched on, that there was heavy rainfall that happened upstream in areas like the Tuiskloof, Ceres and Slanghoek, which just resulted in massive volumes of water flowing down into the Breede River, and then that flooded through Robertson and then came through to the cellar. Well, we anticipated the flooding and we did put precautionary measures into place. No one could have predicted the scale of what would follow. Yeah. So, unfortunately, we did suffer quite a lot of significant damages to the infrastructure, our storage facilities, vineyards, and then obviously stock. You might have seen on the news we predict it's about 1.3 million bottles of wine that was in our main storage facility that was ready for export and local market, which now has to be cleaned up. We also had some extensive damage to our battery room. We've got about 1,200 solar panels on our roof. And then the lithium battery room was completely underwater. And that causes chemical reaction. So the battery room set alight as well on top of the flooding. But luckily that was contained very quickly and we managed to get that under control. Okay. Because there were some rumors circulating that Van Loveren was burning down as well, but it was only the battery room, luckily.
Okay.
So we, we only got electricity to the farm, I think about Friday morning.
Yeah.
So that we could start assessing how much damage there actually is. And, there's still parts of the cellar where we don't have electricity, but for most part, we can see outside the winery, there's about 50 hectares that has been affected. And then obviously within the cellar, we lost some barrels and then, all that stock that was in the storeroom.
Terry taking a chance on the email, wondering if any of that stock is floating downriver. Marili, you did say it's going to be cleaned up and relabeled, etc. It's all still there, right?
The
Sorry, Terry.
Operation plan. No, trust me, she's certainly not the first person that's been asking this question. I've been inundated with people wanting to know if they can take some flood wine off our hands. So at the moment, our immediate focus is just on cleanup operations, and there will likely be some flood-affected stock available at a later stage, and we'll communicate that when the time is right. We just need to focus on Operation Cleanup. So how we're tackling the storeroom is quite remarkable how the team has just all pulled in together. We've got forked lifts coming in. We've got big crates where we hand packing every bottle into the crates using forklifts to take them out, transport them to different storage facilities, and then we still have to remove the wet cardboard boxes that they were in. Yeah. It's been ongoing since Thursday when we could start tackling the entrance of the storeroom, and there's two massive storerooms. Yeah. We worked the whole weekend long, and the Operation Cleanup is still ongoing. So we've got a committed team, the spirit of everybody here from the staff, and as Nelmari touched on, the community and the willingness of the people to stand together in this difficult time has been incredible. We've seen such an incredible outpour of support from our teams, the neighbors, customers, retail and trade partners, and just the broader community. How everybody is wanting to assist us and help us rebuild.
Yeah, that's fantastic to hear. Marili, one of our listeners asking about the damage to the vineyards themselves. I mean, you said 50 hectares affected. Were those vines washed away, drowned? Are some of them salvageable? Do you know yet even?
Yeah. No, at this point, it doesn't look like those vineyards are salvageable at all. If you look further down to the Red Bridge, which Nelmari touched on, which had washed away by one of our farms, it's just river rocks and sand at the moment. So there's absolutely no way. And some of the vineyards we had replanted after the floods in 2024 has now been washed away again. So, yeah.
I mean, it's devastating. But Marili, it sounds like you guys have been very quick to start mopping up operations, as difficult as it is. And a salute to you and the whole team who's involved in that. I'm going to ask you the same final question I asked Nelmari. What's the best way for a CapeTalk listener listening to this interview to help support Van Loveren right now?
Well, I think with all the wineries that have been affected down here, because we're not the only winery, obviously the biggest support that you can give us is just to keep buying our wines from retailers and restaurants. And if you see it on the wine list, pick it up, and obviously visit our tasting rooms once we're up and running again. Even though some of the accommodation facilities have been affected in Robertson, we do still have a wine festival, the Sip and Save at the Mountains, which is happening at the end of the month, the 30th and 31st at Bold in Robertson, where all our wineries are going to show up, perhaps with our flood-affected wines. Van Loveren is luckily in a very fortunate position in that we do have different bottling facilities and storage facilities. And all our wine of 2026 harvest was safely in tanks, so we are busy transporting that to get that rebottled up and running again.
Fantastic. Marili, thank you so much for the thought for the other wineries as well. I think that's remarkable given what you personally are facing at Van Loveren, that you take the time to recognise it's an industry-wide issue, and wonderful to know there is a very practical way to help by supporting the Sip and Save Fest. So we'll remind our listeners a little bit closer to the time to please do that, and all the best to you and the team for the intervening weeks and for the rebuilding operation.
Thank you very much, Pippa. Yeah, there's a long road ahead, but the determination of our staff and families in the community gives us a lot of hope for what's next to come.
Thank you so much, Marili, McElhinney. And I have to say, if the best way to help is to keep drinking the wine, that's not exactly a chore, is it? I'll be glad to help. Marili, thank you, Marketing Manager for Van Loveren Family Vineyards.